Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X-Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X-Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomenon, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X-Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Paranormal Stakeout. I'm Larry Lawson, your host and guide on our continuing journey into the unknown as we search for answers of things that lie beyond our reality. The program is coming to you tonight from the X-Zone Broadcast Network in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and I'm speaking to you from the X-Zone Nation's Southern Command Post in beautiful Vero Beach and Fellsmere, Florida. As most of you know that follow the show, we spend a lot of time talking about the things in my wheelhouse, ghosts, spirits, what lies beyond the reality of life and what's out there after death. But tonight, we're going to change things up a little bit. I think it's particularly appropriate considering the announcement today of the first photograph of the black hole, which I hope some of you got a chance to watch and experience today. But we're going to discuss probably the birthplace of ufology, here in our country anyway, Area 51. And to do that, I've got our guest tonight, Mr. Thornton D, otherwise known as T.D. Barnes. T.D. is an author, entrepreneur. He grew up on a ranch at Dalhart, Texas. After graduating from high school, he embarked on a 10-year military career. He served as an Army intelligence specialist in Korea and continued his education while in the U.S. Army, attending 2.5 years of missile and radar electronics school by day and college by night. He later deployed with the very first Combat Hawk Missile Battalion during the Soviet Iron Curtain threat before attending the Artillery Officer Candidate School, and that's where an injury ended his military career. Barnes first became involved with U.S. intelligence agencies while in the Army and during the CIA's Project Palladium. And an on-and-off relationship continues today. His career includes serving as a field engineer at the NASA High Range in Nevada for the X-15, XB-70 lifting bodies and lunar landing vehicles. He also worked on the NERVA project at Jackass Flats, Nevada, and served in the Special Projects Division at Area 51. He currently is the CEO of Startel Incorporated, a landowner company that's involved in the mining of landscape rock and gold in Nevada. He is the president of Roadrunners International, an association of Area 51, CIA, Air Force, and contractor veterans. He's also the executive director of the Nevada Aerospace Hall of Fame. He's had 2 National Geographic documentaries that he's appeared on, Area 51 Declassified and CIA Secrets of Area 51, along with other documentaries on several channels. He's also the author of a trilogy involving the CIA and his work, the first one being The Angels, followed by The Archangels and The Company Business. And he also has an autobiography out in print, Soaring with Eagles. TD, welcome to Paranormal Stakeout, my friend.
My pleasure.
So, wow, this is a really fascinating thing. Like I said, I was watching the announcement of the new photograph of the first black hole. I found that fascinating. I don't know if you had a chance to see that.
I did.
And I thought,
very wow.
Yeah, it's pretty timely to have you on tonight. But Area 51, it creates an immediate mystique among those that even mention it, and you spent time there. Tell us how you got there. Tell us how your career got started.
Once you ever do anything for the CIA, you never get out of it. And of course, I got involved with them. I was in the Army at Fort Bliss, and it had to do with Area 51. I didn't know it at the time, but then they recruited me right after I got out of the service, and it all had to do with Area 51, even though I didn't initially go out there. I was on the NASA high range, but I was a member of what's called the Seven Sisters, and it was the 7 radar sites that the CIA would contact anytime they could be flying anything out of Area 51, so that we could monitor it, but we would not report it.
And that was Project Palladium?
No, that's actually part of the ArcStart program when they started doing the A12. The Project Palladium, you talk about the announcement today on the black hole. When they started Project Palladium, they were preparing to build the A12 plane to replace the U-2. And it was scared to death of the capability of the Soviet Union, how much were they going to be able to shoot this plane down. We knew we were going to lose the U-2 eventually. We hadn't lost Gary Powers yet, that particular flight, but we did know it was going to happen, or they did. And they designed this A-12, and they wanting to know if the Russians would be able to shoot it down, because they built this plane purely to fly over Russia. And the CIA got wind of the Soviets having a new radar. They picked it up to get reflection off the ICBMs inside of Russia. And so they monitored it to see, what's going on here. Well, the Russians moved one to Cuba. And this is 1960, before the missile crisis, when they was moving everything in. And Project Palladium was what it was, is flying a ghost plane out of Biggs Air Force Base at El Paso, right next door to where I was stationed. And they had to take a run at Cuba, and they'd make them turn on this radar, and then electronically they would answer this radar and make them think they tracked 1 plane, 2 planes, 10 planes, going, coming, whatever they wanted to do. And they'd crank the power down, and then the Russians would turn theirs up. So what they did was they learned the capabilities of the radar, and they determined, yes, they would be able to track the A-12 in time to be able to shoot it down. And but what was interesting about this is, that's where they recruited me, because I was well advanced into some of the electronics at Fort Bliss. I was pretty well known at the time, and they recruited me to go on a couple of these ghost flights in the was flying B-97 and evaluate what the Russians should do. And what we did then was put a big old antenna off of Morgantown, right out of Morgantown in New Jersey, right off the turnpike, aimed it at the moon. And in 30 days, we knew every radar site in Russia from the reflections off the moon.
Wow. Now, the A-12, I think most people would recognize its offspring, for lack of a better term, or the horse in its lineage, as the SR-71, correct?
Yeah, everybody knows about the SR-71, but the SR-71 was the 4th blackbird in the family. There's a family of 4. The CIA built the first one. It was a single-seater. And, the SR-71 claims all of the speed records and altitude records, but the truth is, when they put that second man in the cockpit and all the life support, they lost 5,000 feet of altitude and quite a considerable amount of speed. But because the CIA's plane remained top secret for another 20 years after they stopped flying it even, it couldn't claim any of the records. So the SR-71 guy got to claim all the records. But we were, as CIA guys, we referred to the SR-71 as the family model. We had a lot of fun with that.
And they also had an interceptor model too. I love talking about aircraft. The YF-12, I guess, was the interceptor version of it that they were going to use.
One, yes, we built 3 of those, and then we had a mothership with for a drone that we were building, and we were launching a drone off of at Mark III, off the back of a modified A-12, what it was, and it was to fly over China, spying on their Soviet activity, and we ended up, we had a crash and killed the back seater. So we started flying, used B-52s to fly it after that, and we turned it over to the Air Force. But out of Area 51, we was flying missions out of Area 51 out into the Pacific and launching this drone. So it's quite an interesting program, but we ended up killing the person. We decided that the mothership just wasn't the way to go with it.
Well, that period of time, a time of a lot of tension in this country. Of course, we were at odds with the Soviet Union. U-2, and now as you say, Gary Powers had not been shot down yet in the U-2, but a lot of things were changing, a lot of things that were happening in this country that caused us to experiment on ways to hide better. And that caused an interesting little concept, this Project Palladium, which I find very fascinating. And if you could kind of fill in the gaps a little bit, my understanding is that was to send up false radar signals, correct?
Exactly, yeah. It was well advanced in its time. And a fellow named Gene Poteet was head of that. He was worked for the CIA, and he was an electronic engineer, and went on to get his doctorate degree in it. But we used this ghost plane, we had antennas and stuff all over this thing. And we'd fly it Russian, and like I said, we once they started locked onto us, and we could electronically answer it and make it think anything we wanted to. That was as well advanced at its time. You know, we just, of course, we advanced on that quite a bit after that, but that's how we got them to turn up the power, do this and that, and learn the capabilities. And what we ended up doing then, of course, we built our own version of the Tall King radar is the name of it. We built our own version of it out at Area 51 so that we didn't have to fly over Cuba or over Russia to see if we were, our stealth was working. Because that's one thing the CIA was working very heavily on with the A-12. That was our first stealth plane. A lot of people don't know that, but the CIA insisted that we were going to get into the stealth business, and that's what Area 51 turned into with the CIA was stealth. That's what we did for the 10 years after we quit flying the A-12, is we were doing the Soviet MiGs, exploiting those, turn them down, see how they build, and then flying them, and then we were doing the stealth at the same time.
Yeah. Well, when we get back here, we're about ready to take our break. I want to talk to you a little more about Project Palladium and how that fits into the UFO story. So, folks, I've got T.D. Barnes in the history of Area 51. Stick with us. We're going to be back right after this break here on Paranormal Stakeout. Stay tuned.
It's hard to listen to the news without realizing we're living in volatile, unprecedented times. Yet never has there been such an opportunity to transform the human condition. As old structures fail, where can we find the guidance to co-create a better way? Find Your Path Home is an ever-evolving, leading-edge information, education, and healing resource center designed to support and guide you on your path to unity and enlightenment. Based on sound principles employed by shaman worldwide, we provide techniques that can support you through the current transitions, offering online shamanic classes, international long-distance shamanic healing sessions, complimentary Mission Evolution radio episodes and Stairway to Heaven TV vignettes, seminars, retreats, and much more. All of this can be found on findyourpathhome.com.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me. simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
And we are back on Paranormal Stakeout. My guest tonight, T.D. Barnes, former Special Projects Officer at Area 51. And T.D., just before the breaks, we were talking a little bit about Project Palladium, and I find it fascinating because and correct me if I've got this wrong, but this was a project where we actually would duplicate another aircraft in the sky that enemy radar would detect and think that that's what was over their airspace. Do I have that somewhat correct?
Exactly. Yeah, it wouldn't actually be an aircraft; it'd be just the electronic signals. But
right.
We could simulate a whole fleet of planes if we wanted to. And
was there a downside to that project at all?
None that I know of. It told us we never flew. Put it this way: we never flew another flight in an aircraft over Russia after Gary Powers got shot down.
Okay, so they didn't even have to send up another aircraft to bounce the signal off of. You just sent it out themselves. Well, how did this fit into, and did it fit into the UFO story?
I don't know the connection on that. What story are you referring to?
Well, there's not a specific story, but there was talk about the Project Palladium perhaps being what radar air traffic controllers, for example, might catch on their screens and call a UFO when it really wasn't even out there, and that's where many reports came from. That's kind of what I'm referring to.
That could happen. I don't know of it happening, put it that way, but absolutely, we could do that to any radar. We could, and this was in 1960, mind you. That's a long time ago. But we had that capability that we could play games with any radar that we wanted to. Mm-hmm.
Well, tell me a little bit about Area 51. How what were your duties there, if you can tell us, or what you can tell us?
Yeah, it's all been declassified, the stuff we were doing. Of course, we can talk about what they're doing now, and there's certain things we still don't, just because of the technology involved, that we think it would benefit China or Russia or someone that we don't talk about. But basically we were evaluating. Like I say, we were very deep into stealth. We had the prototype of the A-12 plane on the pylon for like 16, 18 months, and doing this and doing that to, get it down to try and make a stealth vehicle out of it. We made it about 90% stealth, but that thing carried 80,000 pounds of fuel. First of all, and you can't hide that fuel from from radar. And then it was a very hot plane. It'd get up, over 1,100 degrees in a lot of places, and any infrared would pick it up. So we had to give up on making it a true stealth, but we continued with stealth, and we developed other aircraft, like the Have Blue and some of that. It became the F-117, and it became one of the main things they did out of Area 51 was, stealth.
Was what? I didn't quite hear that.
That became one of the main things they did at Area 51 was stealth. That and the Soviet MiGs.
Well, they tested the Soviet MiGs. Now, I'm also, and correct me if I've got this story wrong, that possibly when Russian satellites flew over to photograph you guys, played a few pranks. Is that correct?
Yeah, this kind of clerk, we call them ash cans. They would launch satellites overnight. You know, we stayed up there all week. We'd go up on Monday morning, go home Friday night, and the morning security would tell us, here's what they launched during the night, and we'd know whether it's infrared or we'd know whether it was the RF seeking. No, we'd know what type it was. And if it was RF seeking, we'd turn off all emissions, all the radios, all the radar. But if the infrared, first thing we'd have to do is move the plane off the pylon and hide it from them. And this another story on that I'll tell you. But we would hide everything, but then we would out of cardboard or plywood, whatever, we would build it in shape of some kind of exotic plane and put it in front of a hangar. And then you get a couple of these shop heaters and put on the back end of it, and light fills up, and the satellite go over and they pick up these the heat off these heaters, and they think the plane just landed. And we probably made them waste a lot of satellite time coming over wondering what in the world is that down there. We played a lot of games like that.
Yeah, and probably one of the better secrets in fooling the Russians back in the day. Area 51 evokes just so many visions of UFOs and stealth technology, yes, but also the United States cover-up of extraterrestrials. How many years did you actually spend at Area 51?
Physically, I was out there about 5 years. I was affiliated with it almost 10 years, but the boots on the ground was about 5 years.
During your 5 years there, what sort of things did you experience that you couldn't explain, or may have been from someplace other than the United States, other than the MiGs, of course?
We didn't experience anything, but I think we caused some of it, because that's one of the things while we were so conscious about the stealth thing. Even with the U-2, we were trying to camouflage it where people wouldn't see it. You know, they would it'd flash up in the air flying 13 miles up, and it would be a UFO sighting because no one knew that we had planes that fly that high. And we tried, first thing we did was try painting it, and the weight of the paint caused us to lose 1,500 feet of altitude, just that much weight. Mm-hmm. So then we had what we called the dirty bird. We had it was like piano wire strung all over it and all that kind of stuff, and that didn't work either. But that's our first attempts at stealth. So then the A-12, you know, we really got serious about it, and you know, they would be spotted at times, but no one knew we had these planes. We were flying twice as high as anyone else was flying, and so it was a UFO. You know, people see it every now and then, and there's not supposed to be anything flying that high, so it was a UFO.
Mm-hmm. During your time there, did you ever see any craft that you did not think were manufactured in this country or on this planet there? Did you ever see anything at all that would lead you to believe that Area 51 was involved in the hiding of or working on extraterrestrial craft?
No, we didn't see anything like that. And, you know, a lot of people have talked about this, and George, you probably know George Knapp, who he is. He's a good friend of mine. We've talked about this, and I've convinced him, I think, that'd be the worst place in the world to try to have that kind of a project, because first of all, Russia knew we were there, and they were spying on us. And so we had these satellites flying over. Everybody in the world that knew that we were there was trying to find out what we were doing. So if you're going to work on that kind of a program, you would have moved it. Well, just like the MiGs. You know, we actually developed a MiG squadron, and the Russians was flying over Area 51 to see what we were doing with them. So we moved them to Tonopah, another town here in Nevada, and the Russians kept looking at Area 51, but we were flying them at different locations. So you do the same thing if you had a UFO program. going. But I always said if you don't have something like that going, you'd hide it in plain sight. It'd be out on some little island somewhere out off of St. Louis or someplace, and call it a mad cow disease research institute or something or other. And people get used to it and you get where they didn't even pay attention to it. And but try to hide it. Area 51 would have been a bad place. But you know, the UFO stories didn't start like in the 1980s as far as Area 51. That's when the Air Force took over from the CIA, and the word got out that there was an Area 51. Up to then, no one knew about us, and I think that's what started the associating thing for the Area 51 is what in the world have they been doing for 20 years that we don't know about? And I think that's where, and of course, no one's telling them. So I think that's where a lot of the stories started.
Well, and there's a lot of stories too, and a lot of eyewitnesses. A lot of people have come out of the business there. Former employees talked about things that have happened. Where are they getting these stories?
We flew some weird stuff out there, and this would be a lot of it because, you know, it's a testing place. Like, for example, a lot of UFO sightings have been seen up in the Seattle area. Mm-hmm. Well, that's Boeing country, and Boeing would build it. They would be in competition, say, with Lockheed down in California on a new plane that they want to sell to the government. Well, they would develop them in their home territory and actually fly them on their own ranges. That would account for a lot of sightings up there. Then they'd bring them to Area 51, and that's where we would evaluate them. We'd say, you know, show us what you got. So we had all the radar and all these systems there that we could evaluate what what they had built. But we built a lot of proof of concept. We got where we call them platforms. They weren't necessarily planes. They flew, but they weren't flying saucers either. But we call them platforms. They were technology demonstrators, and like the Tackett Blue. You're probably familiar with it. We call it the whale. Weirdest looking thing you ever saw. But we got more useful technology out of it, and it developed the B-2 bomber and summer cruise missiles. A lot of things like that came from that kind of a prototype. But we had a lot of weird stuff flying out there.
What's the weirdest bird you ever saw fly out of there?
I think the weirdest one was probably the half blue. I was there when the first time we put the little prototype of it on the pole. I never seen anything so utterly as weird in my life. And that was so much fun though, evaluating that thing. Because with the first test, because we had every radar known to man sitting there, and we'd look at it.
Well, I'll tell you what. I hate to interrupt you, TD, but we're about ready to go to our next break. I want to continue this story about the weirdest aircraft you've ever seen at Area 51. So, folks, stay with us. I've got TD Barnes, former Special Projects member at Area 51. Stick with us. We'll be back right after these messages.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Ellie Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, They conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
And we are back on Paranormal Stakeout. My guest tonight, T.D. Barnes, former Special Projects Officer at Area 51. And, I'm enjoying this conversation, T.D., because this, like I said, gets me out of my normal comfort zone, talking about the spirit world and talking about ghosts about UFOs. And like I said, particularly interesting considering today's announcement on the black hole photographs. So very interesting. Going back to that ugliest, craziest, strangest looking aircraft you ever saw at Area 51, can you kind of continue on with your thoughts on that? That was kind of an interesting story.
Yeah, we built, Lockheed built two HAB Blue, the prototype that eventually became the F-117. Mm-hmm. And they brought the, small scale prototype, and we put it on, we call it the pole, the pylon. We had a number of these pylons depending on what we were testing, but we put it on pole and looked at it the first time. We got all kind of reflection off of it, and they took it back in and showed up about a couple months later. We put it back on, and it made changes in it. We kept doing this, and the signature would get smaller each time. They were making improvements on it, and we finally got it down to the point where a bird landed on the prototype would show up more than the plane we were looking at. Mm-hmm. And it got where the pole, the metal pole that we were sitting on was giving us too much background. So we actually built a styrofoam pole to put it on, so we wouldn't get that reflection in it. We got it down where the helmet and the rims on the pilot's glasses would show up more than the plane did. And that was quite exciting evolution as we were developing stealth.
Oh, that is a fascinating story. And of course, the F-117, I think they've retired that bird now, haven't they?
Yeah, it's retired. It's still flyable. We still got them here in Nevada, and they're still flying them some just to keep them in shape in case they ever need them again, and keeping us proficient with pilots that could fly them. Just in case, we still got them, and they could be used again.
Now, they still got some A-12s that are in mothballs, but still flyable, correct?
No, the only A-12 they could fly is the one at Palmdale, the one they had in the Blackbird Airport. What we did, to move them and all, we had to cut the wings off of them. We made a lot of blowtorch work on them to move them to the museums and places, and they're not flyable. But
how about
this one is?
How about SR-71s? Are they all completely decommissioned?
Most of those, now, the one probably at Dayton, I think, they flew it down there and then put it in a museum, so I'm sure it could still fly. I don't know of any others that would still be flyable, but they pretty well decommissioned them entirely.
Just a fascinating airplane. The whole family, Blackbird family, is just a fascinating aircraft. And I'll tell you, the men that flew it, true heroes, true American heroes, in my opinion. Accidents at Area 51, Groom Lake, anywhere through there. What can you tell me about accidents that have occurred up there? Were they common? They were all experimental aircraft, test pilots flying these birds. What kind of accident record was out there?
Pretty serious record. We lost four. The CIA lost 4 U-2 pilots during the program, and then the Hab Blue. We built 2 Hab Blues, and both of them crashed out of Area 51, and they're still buried out there. We didn't want the remains getting in some junkyard or someplace, and then the Russians pick it up or so on, and learn about our stealth. So we buried them right on the spot. But the SR-71, there's A-12. We lost 1, 2, 3. We lost about 4 of those. One of them was Walt Ray. He fueled up. A normal flight of the A-12. These things fly at Mark 3, 2,200 miles an hour. So we'd take off and head north first up to Idaho or someplace, and then loop around to Albuquerque and say we were going to launch something out in the Pacific. And then we'd head for California. All this just took a few minutes to do this. Anyway, a fellow named Walt Ray was coming home. He was about 30 minutes out, and he'd refueled at Albuquerque, and he run out of fuel. To this day, we don't know what happened. But he was a little short guy, and he was uncomfortable in the seat of the A-12, and he had put a 2x4 beneath his headrest. So he rested his head against it. He had to punch out, and the way these things work, they eject the seat. It propels it out of the craft, and he rides the seat down to 14,000 feet, and then it pushes the pilot out of the seat, and then the parachute opens.
Okay.
And he got to that stage, it tried to push him out. His parachute had jammed against that 2x4. And he rode the seat all the way to the ground and killed him. And he'd been married 3 months, really, really tragic loss. And then we lost Jack Weeks right at the end of Operation Black Shield, where we was flying over North Korea and North Vietnam. And the program was over. Everybody was coming home. The engine had overheated in one of the planes, and so they changed the engine, and Jack took it up for a fundamental test flight to make sure everything's okay before he headed home with it. And we never heard from him again. Something happened, and we had what we call a bird watcher on the plane. It was telemetry, and so we could tell if anything was wrong. Whatever happened was so fast. We got 3 chirps on the bird watcher, and that was it. And him and the plane just disappeared.
No trace, no wreckage found?
Never found it. Not a thing. Never found a thing. And that's really, really tragic. And then we had Ken Collins. He had to bail out of one up here in Nevada. His is kind of historic. He bailed out of the plane was upside down in clouds. And he punched out. And it turned out it was just ice building up on the tube and giving false indication. He jumped out of a perfectly good plane, but didn't know it at the time. And then we had one other that crashed out. Lockheed had reversed the cables. And a funny story on this. And as it's taken off on the first flight, Mel Vonovich was flying it, and we, throttled up. Instead of going up, it went down. And so he punched out, and his parachute opened just in time, just as his right foot hit the ground. He sprung his ankles, all it did. And of course, ruined the plane. And Dr. Whelan, who was head of science and technology at Langley, and we had a general, let's see, Jack. Anyway, they jumped on a plane to head down. It's a big deal. We lost the plane. They decided to pick up Kelly Johnson, the engineer at Lockheed that built these things.
Right.
And they were flying to Area 51. Kelly could get pretty abrasive at times. And on the way up there, he started bad-mouthing the pilots. To General Ledford, that was the general's name, Jack Ledford. And he said, if you'd hire some decent pilots, we wouldn't have these problems. And Jack took offense with it, just knocked the crap out of Kelly Johnson. But Bud Wheelon, head of science and technology at CIA, is on a plane going to Area 51, had to break up a fight between the Brigadier General and Kelly Johnson. And it turned out the problem was Lockheed's problem. It wasn't the pilot. It was simply they'd reversed a couple cables.
I would have bought tickets to that fight. I can tell you that right now.
Oh, that was funny.
I'll bet it was. But all the things that have happened out there, all the things you've talked about, you've never seen anything connected with extraterrestrials at Area 51, correct?
No,
ever.
No, never. And you'll never find any of the pilots that was flying the Blackbirds and what have you. None of them saw anything. You know, we talk about this, and I said I've never seen anything that would make me keep looking out the windows. Just nothing that they couldn't explain. You see strange stuff, I'm sure, but nothing that you would associate with being outer space.
Then, and I know you talked about most of the stories apparently started coming out when the Air Force took over, but why are so many people convinced that Area 51 is the earthbound headquarters for reverse engineering alien spacecraft, alien autopsies? Why is that happening?
I think it's just because of the secrecy of it. No one could figure out until they finally started declassifying stuff, just in recent years. But people like myself could talk about it. It's such a mystery, and so people were very, very curious. What have they been doing out there? But to me, I tell you, frankly, that working Area 51 was a lot more boring for me than working on the NASA high range by a long shot. NASA high range was what was exciting, because we were launching the X-15 up into the fringes of outer space, the XB-70, the lifting bodies became the space shuttle, and then we did the lunar landing vehicles. It was a very dynamic place to work. Where Area 51, particularly when we was doing stealth, we might do evaluation of the prototype, and then they said, we'll be back with it. We may not see them again for another 3 months. And there just wasn't that much stuff going on out there.
It sounds so much like Area 51 really was the birthplace of where our space program began in so many ways, with the X-15 and everything. What's your thoughts on that statement?
Yeah, the X-15 wasn't really affiliated Area 51, except that was one of our landing sites if in an emergency. We never landed, of course. But the X-15 we got so much out of it. It was nothing but a workhorse. We weren't testing the vehicle itself. Everything that went to the moon on Apollo, we tested it first in the X-15.
Okay, and with that, I'm going to have to cut you short on this. We got to go to our last break. So stay with us, folks. I got T.D. Barnes with me, Area 51 Special Projects Officer. Be back right after these last messages.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Ellie Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
SIMULTV.com, sonny boy.
SIMULTV.com.
SIMULTV.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
SIMULTV.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. SIMULTV.com.
And we are back. Paranormal Stakeout, round 4 for tonight with T.D. Barnes, Special Projects Officer at Area 51 in Nevada. This hour's gone fast. Love talking about our space program and the heroes that did so much for us back in the 50s and 60s. And TD, thank you for your service to our country, sir. I appreciate everything that you've done.
Thank you.
I want to make a mention of his website, www.td-barnes.com. His Facebook is facebook.com/Thornton D. Barnes. And his books. I got to talk about his books, and we're going to discuss that in detail in a couple seconds here. TD, The Angels, The Archangels, The Company Business, and of course, the autobiography of yours, Soaring with Eagles. I also want to make mention, folks, of the great programming on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, and I want to encourage everybody to go to www.xzbn.net and check out all of the terrific programming on the X-Zone Radio and Television Broadcast Network. And certainly visit me at www.paranormalstakeout.com or www.paranormalfbi.com. Interesting show, TD. It's really fascinating to talk to somebody that was on the ground there, being involved in all these things. And you've written a trilogy, correct?
Yes.
Oh, tell us a little bit about it. Okay.
And these became you might say the Bible at CIA. Now when we go back there, we go back there quite often. I go back about every 2 or 3 months, and usually take a pilot or engineer with me, and we'll sit down and talk to the historians and the Air Branch in particular loves to talk to us. And then the Defense Intelligence Agency just now started to declassify what they did here in Nevada. And they were as big a player as the CIA was, but they've never told their story. So last August, I went back and I took Gary Powers Jr. with me and a U-2 SR-71 pilot, Tony Bavaker, went back. And we did a panel at the Defense Intelligence Agency to the workforce, just talking about the programs, and we'll be doing that quite regularly. But we do a lot of presentations now to universities and stuff like that. So it's such an interesting piece of history, and quite frankly, even the CIA, although it was a CIA project, they didn't know what we did out there, because back then it was so compartmentalized that we didn't talk to each other. No one talked. And the people working today didn't have a clue of what all we did out there. So they contacted me about 15 years ago and said, "We got a problem. We don't know what you guys did at Area 51." And so now we go back there quite regularly. I just got to really compliment them on what the effort they have put in to reconstruct the history of what went on out there.
What was the most significant project, event, situation that you encountered being part of Area 51?
I think the most significant, the one that really, really had a bearing was the first MiG program, because in Vietnam, the kill ratio was 9-to-1 against us. We lost 15 planes in one day and didn't shoot down a single one.
Yep.
And the Russians that came out with the MiG-21 fish bed, a mystery plane, and we were giving it credit because it was shooting out our pilots just left and right. Well, there was an Iraqi pilot defected with a brand new MiG-21 to Israel, and Israel let us have that plane. That was Project Hadloo, and we brought it out there, and then the first thing we did was tore it down, see how they built it, and then we put it back together and then started flying it. Well, the Navy came in first and flew whatever they had in their inventory against it. And on the first flight, we got 100% kill against the Navy, with us in the MiG and them flying whatever, the F-4s, whatever. And then we did the same thing with the Air Force. The Navy immediately, and within 2 months, started Top Gun weapons school.
Mm-hmm.
And overnight, they turned the kill ratio completely around. It took the Air Force about 2 more years before they got smart, and they did the same thing and started the red flag exercises.
Mm-hmm.
And they completely turned the losses around. And then you stop and think about it, it now has been several wars since we lost a plane in air-to-air combat. We don't get shot down by other planes anymore. It just doesn't happen. And
Well, yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
what we realized is we were sending our people into battle untrained, and it took about 10 missions for them to learn enough that they might survive the war. So we said, let's give them those 10 missions in Nevada rather than Vietnam. So that's what we did. We started our own MiG squadron. We were flying MiGs. We had a whole squadron of them. The guys flying they fought like Russians. They would actually play the Russian national anthem before they headed out to engage whoever was flying out of Nellis. And they would fight like Russians, not like Americans. And that's how we turned it around.
Well, and from what I understand too, from my knowledge of the history of it, we had forgotten how to be fighter pilots. We and the Vietnamese and the Russians were still fighting their airplanes while we were standing off with rockets. And once that changed, the kill ratio changed, and that's where Top Gun really helped.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We were sending planes. We came out of Korean War shooting guns, when the Vietnam War shooting missiles. They decided if we got a missile, we don't need guns. So that's actually sending our planes into war without a gun on them. Shoot your missiles. What did you have?
Yeah. In fact, it was the F-4E, I think, that introduced the Vulcan 20 millimeter back in as a gun, and that helped. But anyway, I got to ask you a question. I realized that you've never saw anything at Area 51 that resembled anything extraterrestrial, and I accept that that you haven't. But is it possible that something could have gone on there that you did not know about? Is that possible?
Not in those days, because there wasn't that many people out there. The way it worked, they had the permanent party that like myself. There was 23 of us. We had a few cooks and people that maintained the housing and stuff like that. That's the only ones that could even live in this state. Everyone else had to live out of state and commute in. Mm-hmm. And the security was so tight, you had to manifest. But like I say, there just wasn't that many people. Now, you had what we call them customers. It's actually, that's the reason I call it company business. The CIA was the proprietor and everybody else were customers. And so they'd come out there, and security was such that you knew who everybody was affiliated with. Now, we didn't talk to each other, but you knew what program each other was connected with. But it was very, very primitive. There just wasn't that much stuff out there at that time.
What is your thoughts? There's a lot of controversy. A lot of different people have different opinions on the Roswell incident. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, that happened. Of course, that happened in '47,
right.
That was before Area 51 didn't start in '55. But I always thought it was an experimental plane that went down, or some kind that we weren't talking about. But we were joint venturing with Canada on a wingless plane. Northrop was doing it. And they actually had a little strip down here by Primm, Nevada, right going into California, where this flying this thing. It's a little flying wing. It wasn't about like an F-117. It wasn't very big. Wasn't even that big. And I always thought we landed something there. And of course, Roswell was where we had all of our atomic bombs stored at the time. Mm-hmm. And so it was kind of a delicate place to be. And I always thought it was some kind of prototype that went down there. But, who knows? It's these stories just started. And, you talk about the Black Book. We had a lot of sightings that were some of the UFO sightings that you're talking about. And a Blue Book officer, usually some low officer, maybe not above a major, would be investigating it. And if they got too close, tracking it down, and we're to the point it's going to expose what we were doing, someone with a little more rank would call him a listed guy. That's a top secret program. Make up a story and go home, and they do it. And that's the reason all the stories just didn't sit very well.
So do you think that the UFO craze may have been a deliberate ruse by the CIA to get people away from what they were doing? Do you think that's possible?
No, I don't think it's that extent. I think a lot of people did see things, and there are people that see things that that they go out any night of the week and they'll see something, and that's just their nature. So no, I don't think it was really programmed. Now, we did kind of benefit by it because people kept making these crazy reports, and it made them look foolish when it's proven otherwise. Mm-hmm. But there were sightings, but it couldn't, like the A12, for example, it couldn't be. Now, just looking at it, you think it's a UFO, but just this movement, so to turn that thing around and make a U-turn, minimum distance for U-turns 85 miles. We usually took about 125 miles for us to make a U-turn.
Lord. Well, all right, then as we got about a minute left, and I'm going to ask you this question. Okay. Do you TD Barnes believe the fact that, or believe that UFOs or extraterrestrials have visited us on this planet?
I don't think so. Because we're so far away from the nearest. I think they're out there, but I really don't think they've ever visited us.
And you've never seen any evidence of it?
Not at all. Not
okay.
And I don't know of any of our pilots, the F-15 and all these pilots, I don't know of any pilots that ever saw anything.
Okay. Well, with that, my friend, I'm afraid our time together has come to a close. I really enjoyed our discussion. Thank you so much for being on the show. Folks, thanks for listening, and be with us next time as we continue our journey into the unknown. Have a good night. See you on the other side.
If you are looking for a safe, zero-calorie natural option to the harmful artificial sweeteners on the market today, Just Like Sugar is what you're looking for. Just Like Sugar is a wonderful natural alternative for those health-conscious people who choose a calorie-restricted diet with a great, pure, sweet flavor that tastes just like sugar. Just Like Sugar is a great natural option for people suffering from diabetes and may be useful in restricted diet programs where standard sugars are not allowed and does not cause a laxative effect of some other sweeteners. Just Like Sugar comprises a perfect blend of chicory root fiber, natural calcium, natural vitamin C, and Just Like Sugar's sweetness comes from the natural flavors from the peel of the orange. Just Like Sugar is a natural alternative to harmful artificial sweeteners and will change the way that you believe all natural sweetener products taste. Just Like Sugar is available at your local Whole Foods markets, Wild Oats markets, Henry's, Sun Harvest, and many other fine natural food stores in the U.S., Canada, and worldwide.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Ellie Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.